of some of these other islands in the Bahamas, but so far I haven't seen anything coming out of Grand Bahama Island, which is actually not a good sign. You know, you would expect to hear updates or something, which suggests to me that they're completely cut off. They have no power, and probably a lot of infrastructure is completely destroyed down there. So, um, we'll find out. If anybody has any information, send it to me or something because I haven't seen anything in the news really about Grand Bahama Island. So I don't know. I don't know. But anyways, as the storm stalled, um, it started to make that northern curve that the models were expecting, which is really really good news. Very good news. Um, Now it is moving north northwest. It still hasn't curved back out to sea yet. It still has a western component to the track, uh, but it is definitely a much better track than before, and that what I was thinking. So looks like we have some more upper level wind energy coming in, and I think that is going to finally grab the hurricane and pull it back out to sea. But um, looks like the coast of North and South Carolina are. Sorry, yeah, sorry. I wasn't laughing at the storm. I was laughing at something I saw Kev do.
No,
Uh,
by the way, Scott, everyone's laughing at what Kev was doing there because I've had to switch on the live early. There's obviously a few issues some people are having, so I don't want people to miss out. And we are simulcasting. We were just going to simulcast hour two. And then I realised that my sauce for my dinner was still sitting here. I don't think there's anything else that I don't want seen on camera. I've got my Monster Munch there sitting about. We're good to go. Real people, real radio, Scotty. So yeah, we're talking about Storm Dorian for anyone who is, Hurricane Dorian it was when we first started opening the show up. Yeah.
it's still a hurricane.
Well, that's what I
It's
was saying
still a
to you,
hurricane.
Scott. I seen it had gone to Cat 2, and some people are saying, oh, well, that's that then. See, it wasn't a storm at all. And we can get into that in a moment because we know there's people that say that, right? But this is still
Yeah.
sizable winds, right? It's not like it's not t-shirt weather out there, right?
This is still a significant event, just because it's not a Cat 5. I mean, a Cat 5 is super rare. That's like the most extreme of the extreme, and so just because it's a Cat 2 doesn't mean you just brush it off like nothing is happening. It's still a hurricane. It's a hurricane, and it has sustained winds of 105 miles an hour, and I'm sure that there's gusts that are much higher. And actually, looking at some of the latest satellite imagery, it looks like it's kind of trying to intensify a little bit again. So I mean, we may see it bump back up to a Cat 3. And a Cat 3 is considered a significant hurricane. Anything above, a Cat 3 and above is considered a significant hurricane. So I mean, that it still poses a threat, and people shouldn't take it lightly. And honestly, people shouldn't take any tropical system lightly, even if it's a tropical storm, if it's not even a hurricane, if it's a tropical depression. Most of the people that die in tropical systems die from the flooding and from the rain. Um, and that has nothing to do with the wind speed. You got to remember, the category of a hurricane is only dependent on the wind speed. That doesn't factor in the rain, how much rain it produces, and how much flooding it produces. So just because, some of the worst tropical events that have killed the most people have actually been from like tropical storms, tropical storms and like Cat 1 hurricanes that might not have done a lot of wind damage, but have caused catastrophic flooding and, catastrophic loss of life from those events, So yeah, people shouldn't take this lightly. They should still take this very seriously. And if you're along the North Carolina and South Carolina coastline, I mean, this thing is going to be paralleling the coastline, and they're still talking about landfall. It's not a guaranteed thing that it's going to head back out to sea. So it's going to cause a lot of problems because of how much coastline it's going to affect. Since it's going to be paralleling the coastline, it's going to cover a much, it's going to affect a much larger area as opposed to if it was just to come right in one spot. So um, we're still going to have to be dealing with this for another couple of days, and we'll see what happens. But it is going to cause a lot of problems along the coastline there, and there's going to be a lot of damage. There's going to be a lot of storm surge. There's going to be a lot of flooding and stuff like that. So, I'm glad though that my kind of gut feeling from the other day was wrong. I don't want to be right about any of some of this stuff that I'm thinking. So I'm glad we're not looking at a Cat 5 slamming into the eastern coast of Florida. Now we're just we're dealing with a Cat 2 that's going to parallel the coast of North and South Carolina. So
Scotty,
that's where we're at now.
This is one of the few occasions, right, where me and you, we've got a track record of being able to say, and people can go back and check, but often we've been able to update stories and say, haha, we told you so. See, we told you that was going to happen. And that's good, right? Because that proves that we're on the ball, we've got our finger on the pulse, we're projecting forward, we're getting things right. But this is one such occasion where I'm glad that you got it wrong. And you're glad you got it wrong, right? Because, I mean, I was watching your face when you were telling me, and this was off air, folks. This was just a conversation me and Scott were having. I could tell how worried Scott was for the people in Florida because the way that he was explaining this to me, and I could see where he was coming from, and he wasn't confident that this storm was going to take the turn that everyone said it was going to take. And like I say, this is one time, Scott, I'm delighted that we can say, right, we got that one wrong, dude,
Yeah, like I said, those upper level winds, they just didn't look like they were pushing far enough south. And so that's why I wasn't very confident, at the time. But, something happened and those upper level winds really kind of took that south. And, this is one of the, I would say, one of the examples of the really good uses of, I would say, artificial intelligence, right? I'm not sure if they're using AI in these forecast models. I would assume they're using some form of it, right?
You would think so, yeah, predictive kind of stuff, looking at past models.
Yeah, and, you feed the computer in fluid dynamics, equations, right? Because that's all air is, water vapor floating through the air. Airflow patterns and everything, that's based on fluid dynamics. The jet stream and everything, you have to think of it as an actual stream of liquid. It has the same sort of properties.
Oh, right.
Hope you're getting better, Kev.
See, that guy's crap. We've got Brian back, and he sounded like he choked on that. And everyone on TFR singing, where did that music come from? That's the super chat, folks. That's the super chat. But I'm just taking care of business in the chat room. I'm one of the most understanding people in the world when it comes to chat. We were even on the live stream today, and we were saying how, Okay, we got it twice then. But I let most things go, Scott, right? But there's certain characters, or at least one character that comes in and says nothing else in my chat apart from tries to have some sneaky kind of fly dig at my mum. And then, you know what? You see, this is when I do ban people and block people, because you've got nothing constructive to say. You think you're part of the solution? You're part of the problem, pal. Bye! And that's the way I roll, Scotty boy. Kicked. What is that all about? Do you know what I mean?
Some people have nothing better to do, man.
I know, dude. I know. And, it makes me happy because I like to kick people out the chat. It takes a lot, Scott. It takes a lot. But that's like maybe 4 or 5 times I've noticed that complete IQ-less person coming in and having a go at my mum, who's not here to defend herself, who he doesn't even know, and doesn't have the balls to actually say, come on then, say something, Well, bye, see ya, go and enjoy another stream. But hey, That's cool. So we are simulcasting today. I didn't intend to be simulcasting the whole show, but here we are. So big shout out to everyone on TFR, the home of the Kev Baker Show, and here on YouTube we've got Scotty Lopez here, and then a special treat in hour number 2. We're going to be joined by number 3 host. I wonder who it may be. I think we'll leave that one hanging there. But we'll fill them in as the show goes on. But you're gonna
mystery number 3.
Yes, you're gonna want to be here, folks, because one of your favorites is coming back in hour number 2. You all love him, I know you do, and he's gonna be here. So yeah, we're talking storms straight off the bat tonight, and that kind of knocked me off track a little bit, Scott. But you know I like to kind of be a social hand grenade at times. We don't plan anything here. Had a great stream today, and I was covering a story about how they're going to be throwing you in jail in Australia if you swear in public now, right? You're going to get like a $600 fine in one place, a $1,200 fine in another place, and then even the threat of 3 months imprisonment for using offensive words in public. And you know how we've got a big Australian kind of audience on TFR anyway? Well, I've noticed in the YouTube streams as well, we've also got a lot of Australians in there. So I want to give a big shout out to everyone down under today. Yeah. Love them, man.
Big shout out to our Aussie friends, man. I have a lot of Aussie friends on Facebook and just people I've met throughout the years, even before social media, before the whole social media craze, you know, old school days of just like IRC chat rooms and Yahoo chat and AIM and all that stuff. I just had this tendency of making a lot of Aussie friends. I think part of that is because I'm such a night owl, right? I'm up during the night.
Good point.
And so a lot of the people I ended up conversing with just happened to be in Australia because it was during the day over there. Everyone was awake and nobody was really awake here in the US. And so I just happened to make a lot of Aussie friends. And yeah, man, the Aussies, so cool, so cool. It's just sad to see their country, you know.
I think it's like a globalist training ground, Scott. You know, our ex-First Minister, we don't have a president or a prime minister in Scotland. We've got a first minister. You know, it's a wonder they just don't call them minister, because you know you're not allowed to be first anymore, because that's not very inclusive. If you're first, that means there's a second and a third, right? You can't be having that. But he was once famous for saying, I want to turn Scotland into like this kind of testing ground for new globalist ideas and pilot schemes. But for me, when I look at Australia, is it because it's like down under, literally? It's, you know, tucked away from all the rest of us that they think they can get away with it more there? I don't know what it is, but if you look at the headline here, WTF, very apt headline for the story itself. How swearing in public could get you fined or land you in jail. So I know people that were on the stream earlier will have heard that, but we've now got our bigger audience coming in from TFR as well. This is coming from the Daily Mail, from somebody called, it doesn't even have a name, it's just by the Daily Mail Australia. It's probably an AI that's written this, you know, probably because the Aussie reporters would have been swearing all the way through it. They'd have been outraged.
Exactly. People would have been confused if it said written by GPT-2 bot number 115735.
Oh, it's ridiculous, Scott. And I mean, it says here, whether you agree or not, swearing in public place can land you in a lot more trouble and debt than you expected. Even though it's become normal to drop a swear word when you get frustrated, it is actually considered legal when visiting parks, beaches and restaurants right across Australia. And they've got something called the Summary Offences Act. 1988 states a person must not use offensive language in or near or within hearing from a public place or a school. So if you're near a public place, does that mean in your own home then? You're near the public. It's outside the window, right?
Wow, you know, they would have an interesting time going to a high school football game here in the United States. If they're talking about swearing on school grounds, because everybody's dropping it. the coaches, the players, the parents.
Scott,
It's
you've
just,
heard me. You've heard me off air, dude. Can you imagine how much money it would cost me every day just to walk to the shop and come back?
Yeah, you've heard me off air too. Jesus, we'd be, man, we'd be broke. We'd be broke very quick. Let's just put it that way.
The world's going insane, dude. It truly is going insane. But we're almost on the first break now, and things have become a little disjointed because we were planning just to simulcast hour number 2. We were going to get. We've had Scotty's update, obviously, on the storm. But any more storms to keep an eye on, Scott?
Because I'm looking here. We had tropical storm Ferdinand, and it has moved into Mexico just south of Brownsville, Texas.
Is that storm Ferdinand? So does that mean if somebody takes that storm out, we could be like thrown into a World War scenario, dude?
Oh God!
I couldn't resist, man. Come on, it's an unusual name, right? Come on. People, if you know your history, that's funny, right? Right? Maybe.
Yes.
But with Mandela effects, it probably didn't even happen anymore, right?
Exactly. And then we also got Tropical Storm Gabriel way out in the Eastern Pacific, but I don't think any of these are going to affect anybody. There is an area of interest over by Bermuda, but all of this stuff is going to get ripped out to sea with Dorian. So looks like for now everything is good, but we still got a long way to go here in a tropical cyclone season. So,
dude, over here in the UK,
plays out.
Over here in the UK, we're going to get a bit of a backlash with a bit of wind and stuff, right? And you can guarantee that the weather forecasters over here are going to say it's the tail end of Dorian. Batten down the hatches, get into the bunkers. It's going to be horrendous. And then we'll get like a 60-mile-per-hour gust at best. And myself and my mum were saying this the other night on a call. Never again will we complain about the weather after seeing what you guys over there go through, okay? We will be right back. Never fear, folks. We're still here. We're still here. Yes, that's right. I'm still here with Scotty on the YouTube. Don't know what happened with the network stream today. Apologise to anyone, but hopefully we've got everyone now able to hear the show, see the show, whatever you want to do. And I'm just... Scott, it's getting worse, right? Tell you a little secret, dude. Looking at the clock today, I'm thinking, right, Anne's going to be home from work soon. Need to get the dinner on. So I've been slacking on the streams because of my cold, right? I'll just do 30 minutes. So I think to myself, I've got a couple of stories here, 30 minutes. I'll be in, I'll be out. Nobody cares, 140 odd viewers at one point, 2 hours later, and I'm thinking, oh man, how the heck, dude? The bugs hit me hard. And now I'm back again. And I see our good friend Fred in the chat room. I think it was Fred. He was saying, do you guys ever eat? Do you sleep? Me and Scott, we rarely do both, but we keep going, right?
Yeah. You know what? As long as Anne's dinner was satisfactory.
Yeah. Dude, I haven't got any shoe prints. No shoe print. Nothing like that, man.
Yes. No chancla prints. That's what the Mexicans call it when you get hit with the shoe with the shoe.
See, this is another link between Scotland and Mexico. Like the Mexican men get battered with shoes.
Oh, I do not have any shoes.
I don't know what shoes.
Mexican kids and Mexican men. Yeah. If you anger a Mexican mother, you get the chancla. That's what it's called.
Oh, almost got a slipper there. I don't know about anything else. But no, I blame you, Scott. I blame you because you said to me, Kev, you're really taking to this streaming. So I somewhat blame you. I blame uni. I don't blame me in any way, shape, or form. I'm absolutely immune from any blame here. It's all you that gave me the streaming bug. And of course, people out there in the chat room, they just encourage me, Scott. They take advantage of my good nature, and I stay here and I chill out and I banter with them. And it's nothing like the KBS nighttime show. So I hope tonight's show doesn't descend into the daytime madness that I usually do.
Yeah, yes, Kev. We are forcing you against your will to stream, right? That's what's happening. You really don't want to do it. I know, but we're just.
You can see it's stressing me here, right? It's causing me great pain and consternation being here with all these people. Yeah, there's nothing I would rather be doing less than this right now. I'm joking, folks. I absolutely love it. I want to thank all of you out there on the YouTube stream right now. I'd set it for like the second hour of the show, and then I got some messages saying there's something going on, can't hear you right. So here we are. We're live for both hours. It's not going to be every day, folks, but the coffee time, or I think I'm going to call it Kev's safe space during the day. Scott, you like that?
Oh, Kev's safe space.
Kev's safe space, and you know it's going to be nothing safe in there, dude. Nothing. Algorithm safe, nothing politically correct safe. It's going to be the type of place that melts snowflakes in a oneer. It truly, truly is. But we're about to go live again to the network, folks. So, shh, stay quiet, okay? We're going to sneak into TFR. Shh, here we go. I'm only joking. I don't even know why I'm doing that. It's absolutely backcrap crazy, right? But that's how we roll. Somebody says, stop talking about my mum. Exactly. You talk about my mum, you're out of here. That's the one rule. Here we go. And just like that, we're back. We're live. I'm Kev Baker, and the Scotty Lopez. This Scotty Lopez is here with me live. Scott's giving his nod of approval there. He likes the timing. Everything's going well here. Big shout out to everyone at tfrlive.com. Hit the share button, folks. Tell people they can come and get real news from real people and real madness, real nonsense. We get fun, we get laugh. We get some real serious stuff when it's time as well, right here on the Kev Baker Show. So, Scotty, moving into part 2 of our absolutely unplanned show now. So, you, my good friend, and Charlie Robinson, you were the ones that put me on to Sticks and Stones by Dave Chappelle. Man, oh man. Funniest stuff ever, Scotty.
Yeah, it is very refreshing to see a comedian just come out and
tell it how it is.
Take all of this PC walking on eggshells, outrage culture, just take a tomahawk to it, man. Just take it out to the woodshed and just beat it within an inch of its life. I mean, for those of you out there who haven't seen the new Chappelle comedy special, I highly suggest you go see it because it is absolutely fantastic. And, he pretty much, I think his whole goal was to offend everybody at some point, and it was just so funny. It was so good to see somebody doing that. And of course, all of the SJW bloggers and everyone are completely livid. They're completely, when they give his special a 0 on Rotten Tomatoes,
Yep.
And usually when something has a 0 on Rotten Tomatoes or a low score, I go and watch it because that probably means it's good. You know what I mean? And when something has like a super good review on Rotten Tomatoes, I usually don't watch it because that probably means it's absolutely terrible. You just have to inverse everything, like with movie critics and stuff. Usually if they say a movie is bad, then it's probably good. And if the movie is good to a movie critic, then it probably is a boring piece of tripe.
Well, you know how we talk, we often watch Jeremy from The Quartering, Scott, and he was covering Chappelle as well. But he was actually pointing out the fact that in recent months, in recent times, Rotten Tomatoes hired 600 new reviewers to increase the diversity. Okay. So somebody in the chat room today pointed out to me, Kev, it might have that low, skewed rating by the reviewers, but when you look at the audience, like reviews of this, it's at 99%.
Yes, that's what you got to do. So you have to completely dismiss the official, review and then look at audience reviews and base it on that. And like you said, 99%, you know, for his comedy specials. So that tells you a lot right there. And you know, it's just like I said, it's good to see. I think a lot of these comedians and people in entertainment are getting tired of it. You know, especially the comedians. You know, comedy is pretty much dead. Um, and it's going to take people like Chappelle and Joe Rogan and guys like Bill Burr to bring it back. You know, to just say no. You know, put their foot down and say, I'm not catering to this. I'm not going to bend to this crap and cave to it. I'm going to make comedy the way I think I should be making comedy. You know, if it's funny, it's funny. I don't care if you're offended. You know, and that's the point of comedy. You know, the point of comedy is to be absurd and to say offensive things that are completely outrageous, right? In order to make people laugh. You know, that's why people laugh, because it's something outrageous and offensive. You know, and you take that away, you've pretty much taken away the core of what makes comedy comedy. That's why comedy, like I said, it's pretty much dead right now. I mean, look at how unfunny Saturday Night Live is these days. You can't even sit through Saturday Night Live.
I was going to say, Scott, been a while since I've even checked out any of the clips, because it just got so Orange Man bad and politicized and not funny, dude.
Yeah, it's politicized, and then when they do decide to try and do some kind of comedy skit, it's boring and unfunny because they're not pushing the boundaries of anything, right? Because they're so worried about offending somebody. It's just this milk toast. You know, it's almost like you have to try to make jokes that you would have to say if you were going to try and do stand-up comedy in front of your classroom, right?
You know, Scott,
and the teacher laid out.
Yeah, you think back to the days. Sorry, man. Sorry, I totally derailed you there, but I'll let you come back, right? I've derailed you now. I've done it. My bad. I'll slap myself with the unhappy stick, right? But you go back in time, and you had the court jester, and the court jester was considered funny because he was probably the one person in amongst that kind of hierarchy, the elites, that was able to talk the truth and get away with it, because they would point out the obvious, they would make a laugh and a joke about it, and you could feel comfortable, and people could laugh at it because it was almost like an allowed source of comedy. The kind of thing you couldn't talk about in the street, or you may have got flogged for it, but the jester would get away with it. And it's the truth. It's the truth spun in different ways that makes comedy so funny, because you can relate to it. You see it yourself. It's factual, and somebody's making fun of it. And like I said to you the other day, before you recommended I watched Chappelle, I says, you know, we used to have a comedian over here, and I was telling the people on the stream earlier on, it's one of the most offensive jokes I've ever heard, and that's what makes it one of the funniest ones. And it's a Scottish comedian, Frankie Boyle. He looks your typical Scotsman. He's got this wild, absolutely wild ginger beard, and he's cracking jokes about hanging about schools because he looks like one of those bad people with a beard, and you know, you wouldn't want him babysitting, that type of thing. But he says in the end of the day, it's not his fault that children find his beard attractive. And I tell you, man, when I first heard that joke, people will say, that's grotesque, that's terrible, but it's funny, it's a joke. He doesn't literally mean it, folks. And when I told Scott that, he says, oh, Kev, if you like that kind of humour, you need to check out Chappelle. So do you think, Scott, this might be a springboard, right? Because things can only go so far, and comedy's been dying for years now, in my opinion. Do you think this will give other comedians the guts to do something similar? You know, to risk that. Let's face it, Chappelle's never getting an R Network deal again, right? So do you think other people will now follow that trend?
I hope so. I really do, you know, and I already think it was kind of happening. Like there was this sort of revolt against all of this PC culture kind of bubbling within the comedic community, right? And I think Joe Rogan had a lot to do with that, right? Because he's very involved in the the comedy community. He always does comedy bits. Where is it, at the Comedy Store? I think is where he
Yeah.
does it. That's a big place, for a lot of comedians to go and do their stuff. And so I think there was already this sort of this kind of backlash starting to take place, this kind of revolt against it within the comedy community. And now you got somebody like Dave Chappelle. I mean, he's a legend in comedy. His Chappelle show was like, I probably was the highest rated show on Comedy Central when it was on at the time. And it was so funny, it was so edgy, it pushed so many boundaries. It was
As comedy
so
should.
close. Yes, it was so close so many times to just being sacked off of Comedy Central, right? Like he was flirting with the edge constantly with that, and that's what made it so damn funny. I mean, that's what made it hilarious. And then he ended up just walking away from,
Now,
I believe it's
now let me
something
just
like
jump in, Scott, because I've seen a comment in the chat that it kind of where I was going next, okay? Because I think this Sticks and Stones by Dave Chappelle highlights something that has been on my mind, and lots of people point out, but Stimulate in the chat says, problem is we have a world full of sensitive hypocrites. But we don't. We don't. They're actually in the minority. Because I don't know about all of you out there, but when I go out and I speak to real people, I really struggle to come across any of these people that are triggered in this way, right? So my point is that it seems like they're the majority because they're given the biggest platform. Their voices are amplified via social media, via Twitter, via Facebook, whereas the majority of the people who really don't give a damn, most of them don't even bother to comment anyway, and the ones that do, they're so marginalized and eventually kicked off of platforms that you're left with this false perception that the majority of the world are overly sensitive. Yet, in my experience, Scott, maybe it's just I'm in Glasgow, I don't see much of the world physically, but in Glasgow it doesn't seem to be the case. It's not saying they're not out there, but I would say maybe 5%, 10%. I don't know. It's not a majority though, right?
No. You're right. You're absolutely correct. We're talking about a situation we're in now where a very, very extreme minority, a very small group of people have the loudest voice, right? Like you said, they're given the platform to put all of this stuff out, and so it's the perception that everybody's offended. It's the perception that this outrage culture is very prevalent, when you're right. That's really not the case. Your average person, you go up to your average person, they're not really like that. And they find things funny, and they find comedy like that funny. But you have this small group of people who are complaining and have the power, basically. That's the thing. We're talking about a very small minority of people who have the power to influence culture, and people just need to realize that, people need to just say no.
And Polly comes up with a good point as well. Polly says it's generational, Scott. And that's what worries me, because as each new generation comes into the world and gets indoctrinated with all of this crap in the schools, then over time we are going to see this become the majority. And it is going to become the overriding kind of factor. And that's why it's important to speak out about it now. Okay, you might think you're going to incur the wrath of the outrage brigade, but who cares? They're absolutely brainwashed idiots, and most of them probably don't even believe in what they're saying. They're just virtue signaling to other idiots out there. They just want the likes, the dopamine hit from all of those people that are also hypocrites in some ways, you know, pretending they're outraged at things. They want that likes and shares happening. It's a weird thing,
just-
social media, dude.
Yeah, you just need people in mass to say no. I don't care if you're offended. I really don't give a crap. I really and whatever the repercussions are, just be like, I really don't care. Yeah, sure, do whatever. Boycott me or you know, whatever. I really don't care. And once people or you know, once that starts happening and once you just make them irrelevant where you really don't where people don't really care about the consequences, you know, of you know the things that they try to do, right? They try to get sponsors pulled from people, they try to get them deplatformed.
Sorry, Scott.
And
My cat's decided to start talking in the background. People think Kev's got a talking cat. I have a talking cat. It doesn't meow. It does all this crazy stuff, dude. I don't know. So I'm sorry if people are probably thinking, what's Kev so distracted by? It's my talking cat. Yes.
it's okay. It's okay. I have a cat that is extremely vocal as well, and he does the same thing.
Cool, dude.
But no, what you have to do is you have to just make them irrelevant,
Yeah.
and you have to, in a way, you just ignore them. When they start bitching and moaning and trying to, you know, scare people into, you know, caving to their, you know, bending to their will, you just say no. You just say no, and you keep going about your business, and you continue on, and you know that's what frustrates them the most, and that's what makes them the most mad is whenever they don't have that power over you. You know, the power to make you go and apologize, right? Like Chappelle said in his comedy special. Remember, he was talking about Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
How it was Kevin Hart's dream to host the Oscars, I think it was, right? And then you know, we're in this time of history where people decide that they're just going to go and try and dig something up on you that you've done years and years ago, right? And so they went back through Kevin Hart's Twitter page and, you know, dug up something that he wrote, what was it, like 5-6 years ago or something like that, and then they used that against him.
I'm trying not to laugh
used that
because you brought that back in that part of the show back to me now, and I'm just trying not to laugh, dude. And you know what was horrible? You know what was horrible at the time? Because when he was talking about Kevin Hart, I'm thinking, I know that name. And for some reason, I thought it was the guy out of like King of Queens, the big dude. And then I Googled him, right? I Googled him, and the guy had just been in a car crash, dude. He was like in a car crash in California at the weekend. I think it was just minor back injuries at the time, but I obviously recognized him right away when I seen him and things. I'm useless with actors' names. I know like the characters that they play in films and things, but see the IRL in real life. See, I'm getting this network this kind of internet jingo now. I'm getting there, dude. I'm hip. I'm with the times. I'm keeping up with the young ones and that. So IRL in real life, you know, I don't know half their names, dude. They're just people in films to me.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the same way, right? I mean, you know, that's because we don't obsess over Hollywood like a lot of people do, right? You know, there's some people that I would say Hollywood here in the U.S., a lot of people worship and follow Hollywood very similarly to the way people worship and follow the royal family in England, right? It's kind of like our version of that in a way. It's very strange. But, you know, but going back to what Chappelle was saying about Kevin Hart, you know, they dug something up that he said on Twitter years ago, and it was obviously a joke what he had said, right? He didn't really mean it. I mean, he wasn't being serious about it. It was a joke. Kevin Hart's a comedian, right?
Exactly, dude. Exactly. He's meant to offend. He's meant to say things that shock you. It's his job.
But the you know, LGBTQXYZ LMNOP,
And yes, Scott, and yes, both last night
3
and on today's show, I shared with the audience the extra bonus material that I got live in the house when it came to the L's, the B's, the G's, and the T's, and of course the Q. You mean the Q that you talk about, Kev?
Oh my
She's
God,
never going to
that's
live
so
that one down. Never going to live it down. Absolutely not.
It's too good. It's too good though.
But
In a way, it does kind of maybe apply.
But-
Who knows? But
it does for
anyway.
us now, right? But listen, I've got a quick rewind. Quick article before we go to the break here. And folks, we're going to be joined by a very special guest host after the break. You want to be here for this. It's the return of, and you'll need to wait for it, right? But we were talking about the effect social media has on all of this at the moment, Scott, you know, how it amplifies the voice of the minority to the point where they seem like the majority. And this was one of the articles today that I was going to get to, but I didn't. Because the headline, see when I do the daytime streams, Scotty, I don't read the story. I get the headlines, and then I want to give people my raw, real reaction on the show. Billy Jeremy does on the quartering, right? Sometimes it works. Sometimes the story doesn't pan out at all. But the way the laugh and the joking was going on today, and everyone, Armand, the most triggered man in the world, after I told Armand that you can't swear in Australia, I don't know what I'd done to him, but he stole the show today, dude. Every second word in the chat room was F this, C that. Honestly, hilarious. So I thought to myself, I can't change the mood of the show to go into something like this, so I'll save it for myself and Scott tonight. We're talking about social media now, and this comes from Michael Snyder's End of the American Dream website. And it says here, this is what social media is doing to us. I urge you all to check out this website, folks. Some really good stuff that Michael writes about. He sometimes gets covered and carried over on InfoWars. That's where I first found Michael Snyder. Joe Joseph put me onto him as well. He's got a really good take on some things in the world. It says, scientific study after scientific study is showing that too much time on social media can be extremely harmful both mentally and physically. But even though most of us know this, very few of us actually alter our behavior in a meaningful way. Now, when Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and other social media platforms first emerged, we welcomed them with open arms. They were a lot of fun, and they allowed us to interact with family, friends, and society as a whole in ways that we had never been able to do before. That was all part of the plan, folks. That was to suck us in. But they were also extremely addictive, and they rapidly became transformed into dumping grounds for just about everything toxic, negative, and malevolent that you can possibly imagine. Now, today, many of us spend far more time on social media than we do with real people. And as you see, or as you will see below, that has an enormous implications on our future. I'll need to click into that story to get the rest of it then, Here we go. A growing body of scientific research clearly indicates that spending too much time on social media can be bad for us. For example, just consider what a long-term study that was conducted by Gallup over a period of 2 years ultimately concluded. It says Holly Shakya, assistant professor at the University of California, San Diego, and let me just say that also from the University of California, San Diego, I'm going to be having Dr. Brian Keating on the show on September the 23rd, astrophysicist, and that close to winning his own Nobel Prize, which led him to write the book Losing the Nobel. He's going to be on the 23rd. Just name drop in there, Scott. You know how I'm shameless like that, right? And Yale professor Nicholas Christakis spent 2 years following 5,208 adults who are part of a Gallup long-term study. Now, after asking permission, they monitored these subjects' Facebook use directly from Facebook rather than asking subjects to report their own use. And it puts in brackets here, people often don't realize how much time they spend on the social network. And they checked in with subjects on their emotional and physical well-being, as well as their body mass index, the BMI, 3 times over the course of 2 years. Now, overall, our results showed that while real-world social networks were positively associated with overall well-being, the use of Facebook was negatively associated with overall well-being. The researchers wrote in a Harvard Business Review article, these results were particularly strong for mental health. Most measures of Facebook use in 1 year predicted a decrease in mental health in a late year. Now, does that make sense? Hang on. These results were particularly strong for mental health. Most measures of Facebook use in 1 year predicted a decrease in mental health in a late year. So it affects your mental health then, Scott.
Yeah, that means using using Facebook over a year, they were able to predict a decrease in mental health during a later year, later on.
Yeah.
It caused a
knock-on effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it goes on to say here, that doesn't sound good at all. And I'm aware we're coming up on the break in a moment, folks, so we'll be able to pause and we'll get briefly back into it on the other side. But it says here, if you know that something was going to consistently degrade both your mental and physical well-being, would you engage in that activity every single day? And yet most of us simply cannot go 24 hours without checking our social media accounts. One way that social media is affecting our mental health is that it's making all of us a whole lot more important. Just check out what a survey of 2,000 British adults found. Patience is a virtue, but it's becoming an exceedingly rare quality in modern society. According to a new survey of 2,000 British adults, all of the luxuries in modern life have made most of people incredibly impatient across pretty much every aspect of their lives. 3/4 of those surveyed said they believed that the dominance of digital technology, such as smartphones and on-demand TVs, are to blame for this ever-growing lack of patience. And on that note, let us join you after the break with our very special guest host. Don't go anywhere. And of course, we're still here on YouTube. So what we'll do now is, we will have a look to see if we've got our very special guest hosts. So many different people. You see...
Yes, prepare the transporter room. We may be beaming someone in.
You know me, Scott. I'm not the best readers at the best of times, right? But I get even worse at reading when somebody is constantly messaging, right? And do you know who was bloody constantly messaging me there? Joe Joseph.
I was just about to say, was it Mr. Joseph?
Somebody was about to incur my wrath. I'm thinking when I get to the break here and I find out who's annoying me on this social media that myself and Scott are talking about right now, and I'm getting impatient here, just like this survey says, really impatient, I'm thinking, who's doing this? Bloody Joe Joseph. And people wonder why I Photoshop the hell out of that guy. I'm telling you, he deserves every Photoshop I do of him. He truly does. But, let me just go to the Skypers because we may be getting joined by somebody else. And no, it's not Joe Joseph. It is not Joe Joseph. Let me look. Ah, indeed. Hang on then. Let's see, and it's all back to front. People are thinking, what's all that? That looks like Hebrew or something Kevin's writing in. No, it's not, but we're going to be joined by number 3 in a moment. Let's hope he picks up. Is he going to pick up? Let's see if he doesn't pick up now. This is really going to make me look silly, isn't it? Hey! There he is, the man himself. Do we have cameras? If not, the camera's not. Oh, we do have a camera. Okay, now hang on. We're good. We're good, Johnny. How you doing, man? Oh, indeed. Now, I need to get the cameras all figured out. There's Johnny Whistles, everyone. He's the other one. We've got Scotty Lopez. So let me go to another screen now, guys. I've got another screen ready to go. You see? Hang on now. Where is it? Here it is. Here it is. I can build it from here. So yeah, Johnny Whistles, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing fine. Thank you. Thanks. It's great to be back again. I've been watching some of your afternoon shows, Kev, and they are fantastic.
Awesome, man. That means the world, Johnny. It truly does. And I was saying to Scott before the show today, I really, really love it when you can make it on nowadays because it's such a rare treat. It really is. And I know that all the audience love to catch up with you. Myself and Scott and Joe and the guys at the network, we all like to catch up with you. And we understand, right, because of health and stuff like that. That's why it's so brilliant when you do make it on, man. So, Johnny, it's great to have you here, dude.
Yeah, it's good, mate. It's good to have a change for doctors, neurologists.
Oh, don't get all depressing on us. We know about all that, man. Don't do that to the stream. Don't kill the vibe, Johnny. We know.
That's all right. I'm going to up the vibe, Kev.
Oh, excellent, man. Excellent. But you know me, Johnny. I'm just joking, man. Here we go. I'm just going to add in an R source here. You see how I do this, folks? This is like tremendous, right? And Polly in the chat room says there's no such thing as multitasking, but there is. And I'm about to bring the network back right now. Stand by, folks.
Kev is the master of the multitask.
It would appear so, and they say guys can't do that, right? Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm doing my best to scream over the top of any copyrighted music that might be going out there right now. How y'all doing? Hour number 2 on today's Kev Baker show, and we have the one, the only. You had to go and do that, didn't you? Oh, that's it. No, we don't have anyone. In fact, it's just me and Scotty Lopez here now. Get rid of him. Johnny Whistles is with us. How you doing, man?
I'm doing fine, Ken. Thanks very much. As I said, great to be back on, mate. It's, as you say, a lot of things happening. I mean, I don't get the time, but when I do, Kev, fantastic.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So how is the Kingdom of Fife treating you, dude? Put your camera down a little bit, John, because it looks like you're about to fall. It looks like you're like even smaller than me. There we go, man. Look at that. Perfect, dude.
Look at that shiny head, man.
Dude, you know why that is? Grass can't grow on there because there's too much going on, right?
That's it. Grass doesn't grow in a busy street.
Absolutely. So before the break, folks, we were getting into this whole social media thing. I'm going to finish this article off, and then we're going to get into some good woo, some fun and games with Johnny and Scott. We're just gonna go, the way we usually do it. Absolutely nothing planned, nothing scripted. Somebody asked about the Dog Man in the chat room earlier. I can take a look at Dog Man. I usually talk about Mothman, but Dog Man, I can check that out. But we're going back to this article, and it comes from End of the American Dream, and it's written by Michael Snyder. We're talking about studies that have been done into social media, and I'll just repeat what a study of 2,000 British adults found. I'd already read the first paragraph, but we'll get back into it. It's a good way to pick it up from there. It says, patience is a virtue, but it's becoming an exceedingly rare quality in modern society. According to a new survey of 2,000 British adults, all of the luxuries of modern life have made most people incredibly impatient across pretty much every aspect of their lives. 3/4 of those surveyed said they believed the dominance of digital technology, such as smartphones and on-demand TVs, are to blame for this ever-growing lack of patience. Now, respondents reported becoming frustrated after just 16 seconds of waiting for a web page to load, and after 25 seconds of waiting for a traffic light to change. And this story's too long. I'm getting too impatient. Can we just leave it? I'm only joking, folks. I'm only joking. When I read those paragraphs, I found myself nodding my head in agreement. These days, I have a hard time waiting for anything, and I always feel like I'm in a hurry. Can you identify with that? I have a feeling that many of you can. So let me stop there. I certainly can appreciate that. And I think it's because everything's coming at us so fast. It used to be you had to wait hours between news reports or something like that, Scott. things did take time, but now you want them instantly. In fact, you want them before you even think about them.
Yeah, I mean the technology nowadays, offers basically instant gratification. You get everything instantly, right? Look at Netflix, for example. You can sit there and binge watch the whole series all in one go instead of waiting for, it used to be on TV, you had to wait for the next episode to come out a week later, right? Now you get it all in just one shot.
I like it that way, though, eh? I do like it that way.
Yeah,
I hate.
but there's a perfect example of it, right?
Yeah.
And we've even said it off air before when we talked about this, right? Me, you, and Joe. You and Joe are like, yeah, I couldn't even wait a week for an episode to come out. I'll just wait for it to come out on Netflix and then I'll watch the whole thing. See, it just shows how impatient people have become, right? And so, it's this instant access to everything. Everything is just boom, right there all the time. Like you said, news constantly breaking. You're always getting fed this, or it's just a constant stream of information that you're seeing all the time. And so we've been trained to expect that. We've been trained to expect instant results. And when we don't get it, then we're impatient, right? And this also has a lot to do with the perception of time speeding up.
I think
this
so.
Plays into it. I think this plays into it. This goes hand in hand, right? Because everything is moving at us at such a fast pace, at such a rapid rate, that it has altered our perception of time. And so it just feels like that time is flying by, So yeah, there's that. And here's another thing that I think there needs to be some research done into this, because this is a theory I have.
I should have some music on. A Scott theory. A Scott hypothesis. I like that.
So we've seen this increase, here in the United States. I don't think it's probably such an issue in the UK because the weather there is cooler. But we've seen this increase in the years of people leaving their kids in a hot car and the kids dying, right? Leaving their babies or toddlers, in the back seat, and then they go inside. And people, you see people commenting on this stuff, and they're like, "How the hell can you forget your kid? How can you forget, your child in a vehicle? And I think a lot of it has to do with cell phones and technology. I think it has to do with like mental overload, and it causes people to not be able to think as clearly or remember stuff like
and always rushing, Scott. Always rushing.
Yes. Yeah, always rushing. The impatience thing, right?
And then your attention span, maybe once you've gone into the shop, you've left something, an animal, child in the car, because that attention span's shortening because of the increase in stimuli, you might forget that they're in there.
Yes, exactly. I think that has a major role in this. And I think that they need to look into that. Like, how is technology and all of this affecting our brains in that way? And it's crazy because they're even putting out like public service announcements here in the US, like tips, so people don't forget their kids in their car. They're like, we'll put something important in the back seat, like your cell phone or something. That way you have to look back there. And I'm like, put something important in the back seat? You mean like your kid? I mean, that, you know what I mean? So they're telling people, they know that people are so addicted to their cell phones and to technology that if you were to put a cell phone back there, oh, you wouldn't forget that, would you? You wouldn't forget your smartphone. So that would force people to turn around and look in the back seat and go, oh, my kid's back there. I mean, it's crazy, but I do think that you're right. The distracting nature of it, and the information overload, I think is having this major detrimental effect. And it is. I think this. Go
I
ahead.
mean, as Kev says, I mean, the Russian. Why does Russians always get the blame for everything? Do you know what I mean, Kev? Come on, why is Russians got to get a blame for people just losing their mind?
See, don't speak to me about my beloved homeland. You see, this is why, you see, Johnny Whistles, he's back for 2 minutes. He's derailing people with his comedy special already. This is why we miss him. And a lot of love going out there in the chat room because we've got like the three amigos back together. And of course, we've got the disruptor hitting me up on Facebook every 2 minutes, Joe Joseph. But Johnny, let me ask you then, right? So I've seen somebody there in the chat room saying 2019, it's just flowing by. It's breakneck speed. And I think this ties into everything that we're talking about as well. And it's a fact, even before technology, people, before the current technology we have, people would always say to you, you know, I make the most of when you're young and that. Once you get older, time flies by, you know. But it is getting worse now, I think, John. Something's almost accentuating it. It's accelerating it again. And I do put it down to the way that our technology and information is delivered to us. It's constant. There's never a quiet moment for your brain.
No, and you're right. As we always say, Kev, the technology is way too fast. But it's an interesting point that you come up with there, Kev, because the older people who didn't have that technology were telling us that at that time. But we are putting it on technology as making it.
But I do think it's worse, though. But I think it is worse because you look to when there was no technology, and there's a good kind of, I think it might even have been Scott. You might have been the one that explained this to me, right? When you're, say, 10 years old, a year it's like a tenth of your life, right? I mean, a tenth of your life, when you compare that when you're 10, that's a long time, right? So, but then when you're 60, a year, that's only a 60th of your life. And it's almost like it's a perception thing. And that, before the whole technology thing was why, well, Scott, I think you nodded there. I think you know what I'm talking about. I think that's why, even before the technology, it was a thing. But now even younger and younger people are experiencing it. And that's the difference, I think, Whistles. Do you know what I mean? It's not,
I know what you mean.
You know what I'm saying, bro? It's like it. I mean, I don't know about you, Johnny, but it just feels to me like it was only just Christmas a moment ago, and now the nights are getting dark again. Summer's been and gone, and we're going to be there again soon, real soon at Christmas time. And then before we know it, 2020. Dude, I remember, like, the turn of the millennium. It doesn't seem like 20 years ago.
I can remember my 21st party as if it was yesterday, Kev. Do you know what I mean?
You remember 1820 you know that well? Dear Lord, dude.
Do you know what I mean? There you go, 39 years ago. And it just sounds like the blink of an eye. Do you know what I mean? Honestly, it's pretty weird.
Really and you do your binge watching. You and June are bingers.
Yep.
You know, I mean, I find it hard now to think back to waiting a week for a show to be updated. I find that almost like alien. My mum, she watches dramas and she says, I watched part 1 tonight, and I'm thinking, right, what about the other 5 or 7 parts? Oh no, part 2's on next week. Man, oh man, oh, yawn. Dear me, I'll be grey in the head before this series finished. It's weird. Times are changing, dude.
I know. It's like that Carnival Row.
Oh no, don't watch that.
I'm going to have a look at that in one episode, and that was me.
Nah, dude. I've seen fairies and, like, I don't know, like,
these fairies are mental.
I don't mind talking about fairies on the show, but these fairies in Carnival Row look well bizarre. How we got to Carnival Row from here? Only Whistles can do this. You see, now I have to be on my toes. I need to be on my toes. Whistles is back and he's determined to take me to places I don't expect to go.
You see, Kev.
Thing is, sorry, Scott, I've got one for you anyway for later. I'll say you through in the break, but I don't know if you have ever covered it, but it just looks amazing anyway.
Oh, excellent. Is this some woo?
This is actually it's to do with space, Kev.
All right, awesome, man.
Oh,
Dude, bring it up now. Bring it up now. We're easy. We're cool.
Right. The
People
Space
have
Hotel.
People have forgotten what we started talking about anyway. Remember, they're thinking this is getting boring. Move on now. They're impatient, Johnny.
Well, Kev, I don't know if you've heard about the Space Hotel.
Yes.
Right, it's going to be open by 2025.
Okay.
This thing, it looks like the wheel of a bike, and it spins around. It's got artificial gravity.
Have you got a link,
said
Whistles? Have you got
Yeah,
a link
I have,
there
Kev.
at all?
They said that they're going to make this thing in space with robots and drones. Now, it'll be amazing if they do pull this off, Kev. That's the thing about it. And although I'll probably never get the chance to go up there, Kev, but just being able to have that chance would be, I think it would be fantastic, mate.
Johnny, with the amount of fans you've got, I imagine there's probably one out there that might even just send you there. They might decide we'll send Johnny up there. So hang on, I'm going to try and open this now.
Me.
Copy that link, bring the boys back. You see, you like how I do that? That's awesome, man. I've got this shizzle sussed, boys. I'm telling you. Right, will I bring this up here? Space Hotel. So, the Von Braun Space Station. Nice. We like it. We like it. Old Von Braun. Right, come on. I hate this crap. Ad blocker. Everyone uses ad blocker. I'm not going to turn it off for your stinking website, bigthink.com. It says here, the Gateway Foundation is building a space hotel based on the concepts of Nazi and American rocket scientist Werner von Braun. Look at this character, Scott. He turns up blazing a joint. He's got a bottle of beer on the go. Big man's loving it, right? He's already on the space hotel, man. The space station will be operational by 2025. The company plans to assemble it in orbit using robots and drones. So it says here, if earthly destinations are not enough to quench your wanderlust, a trip to the space station might get you on the radar, or might get on your radar within the next few years. The designer of the Von Braun space station, and I see it, we're going to get rudely interrupted in a moment by a super chat. I think, here it comes, ready for it.
Hey everyone, great to see ya all. The Whistler, oh yeah. Scotty, hope you're recouping well. Polly, it's time. Puff puff pass, let's do this war.
I love it, and I'll add it for you, Justa. I'll add it. Brown chicken, brown cow. There you go. And I'm sorry to all the other colours of cows and chickens that I've not included in that little phrase there. I didn't mean to offend any cows or chickens in the making of this show, but hey-ho, if you're not a brown chicken or a brown cow, you're out. So then, says here, the designer of the Von Braun space station revealed numerous plans that detail the construction of a veritable resort in space. Built by the Gateway Foundation, the world's first space hotel will have gravity, bars, inviting interiors, and a fully fledged kitchen. They plan to have the station visited by about 100 tourists per week by 2025. And the designer of the project, Tim Alator, wants to make traveling in space commonplace. Quote, eventually, going to space will just be another option people will pick for their vacation. Just like going on a cruise or going to Disney World. There it is there. And you see this kind of structure, this shape, this design a lot in sci-fi programs, things like that. And it's because of the centrifugal force that a wheel can generate that it would approximate the effects of gravity. Do you like how I got round that one there? I both went gravity and not gravity at the same time. You get me, right? So he thinks that while initially space travel will be the domain of the uber wealthy, and always will be, until they can find a way of like making us work as slaves on other planets, and then we'll get up there. Soon enough, it will be available to regular folks. Now, the space station will utilize existing tech used on the International Space Station, but will differ in one crucial aspect. The hotel will have artificial gravity, making long-term stays much more manageable. And the designer thinks gravity, about a sixth of the Earth's, will add a sense of direction and orientation that isn't present in the ISS. You'll also be able to get a toilet, shower, and eat food just the way you are used to. I think this is long overdue, folks. I truly do. I mean,
and instead of going on a diet, you can go up there and be a sixth of the weight you were on Earth. So there's that aspect to it as well.
But you know, we're already manufacturing things in space, folks. They've got 3D printers up on the space station where they manufacture tables and bits and bobs, and that's a really good idea. It's a good idea, Johnny. I hope this
pizzas,
does.
Kev.
Sorry?
3D printing pizzas.
That's cool. We'll have pizzas as well. But I mean, to build things like this in space as opposed to, you know, launching bits here, there, and everywhere, although that's getting cheaper all the time, I like this. We've spoke on and off air, Johnny, about how we thought by this time in the kind of a course of civilization, we'd probably be living off planet by now anyway. Or at least there would be this kind of sci-fi world that we see in some of the shows, right? When I was a wee guy, I thought we would have like things in near-Earth orbit, bases on the moon, up on Mars, you know. To be honest with you, I thought by the end of my lifetime we would be going interstellar. Probably a bit ambitious when I look at the current course of things. But Scott, Johnny, this is the way we're going, and I think it's inevitable. No matter how much people deny that space is a thing or whatever, I think our future does include an interplanetary kind of angle. That's what I think. That's how I think we're going to go in the future. What do you guys think?
Well, I think the first people that's going to get anything out of this, Kev, is going to be the military-industrial complex, because they're going to get all the resources they want from the comets and asteroids that are out there. They're full of all these elements that they need, and they're probably running short on Earth. And I think they'll be the first kind of people to get anything, as in money out of space. But I'm with you, Kev. This kind of thing should have been done a long time ago. We should have been able to go on holiday to the moon by now. Do you know what I mean? This is a long time that we've been to the moon. It's like, what is it, Kev, 55 years or something like that? 50 years?
No, just had the 50th anniversary of when we
you know what I mean?
maybe went.
50 years and we've never been back.
50 years,
it just seems crazy.
And this iPhone here has got more technology in it than Apollo 11, literally.
Yep.
Who
That's
knows?
true, mate.
Scotty boy.
And I mean, we did have the ability to do it. You know, we're talking about a design that Wernher von Braun made back in the 50s, right? His space station, right? This is something that could have been done a long, long time ago. And honestly, maybe it has been done. You know, we talk about secret space and breakaway civilization and all of that stuff, right? You know, I think that has to be on the table. You know, who's to say we didn't do it? And they just, you know, have been waiting for the time to when they can dole it out to the public, right? You know, we always talk about the technology they have being 30 years ahead. And whatever gets dribbled down to the peons, right? You know, to the people, that's old technology to them. That's stuff that they really have no use for anymore. So they're like, okay, well then go ahead and let the people use it because it's really not a threat to anything. You know, we have far superior technology. So, I mean, who knows? You know, who knows what they've actually been doing up there? But yeah, I mean, I was watching a very interesting program and they were talking about colonizing the moon. And they were showing this lunar rover sort of vehicle that they were that they're experimenting with, you know, like designing and testing and messing around with. And It has a 3D printer built into it, and they said if something happens to the rover, like say its wheel gets damaged, right? Um, it can use the moon dust, the lunar dirt, and mix it with a little compound or something that it has, and it can 3D print itself a new wheel out of the lunar dirt, and so I think we're going to start seeing that where, you just utilize the resources that are there. I mean, the whole moon is covered in dirt, and, they make houses out of, concrete. You think about like bricks and stuff like that. And, what's a brick? It's basically dirt. It's just crushed up dust. And so I think that's where we're going to start going, right? Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of this 3D printed technology utilizing the resources that are there and just kind of building things there. We just have to send the initial stuff there, the initial technology to the surface, and then from that point on, it can just build whatever it needs to build. So, yeah, I think that's where we're gonna go.
Somebody's asking in the chat room to talk about lizards. I'm sure you're talking about the reptilians. They'll come up by the end of the show. If you want reptilians, I can give you reptilians. You know that. There's no place I won't go, folks. Reptilians is cool. Even the algorithm likes reptilians. Any reptilian show you do, there's no problem there. The usual stuff I talk about, not so much, but reptilians, we can go there. But we're almost on the break, folks. It's been a bit disjointed tonight. I get that. We had a bit of a kind of false start because we were just going to simulcast hour number 2, and then we had some issues. We went live about 10 minutes into the show, but I've had a blast. I hope you've had a blast out there. We've still got one segment to go before we hand things over to what day is it today? Wednesday? It is Wednesday. Yes, it's Wednesday today. We hand off to Lucky and Dr. Brooks Agnew after the Kev Baker show finishes on tfrlive.com. So please stay tuned for that. But we've got one segment to go after the break. And in recent times, well, there's the break. We'll be right back. Okay, there we go, boys. Now, you can entertain these wonderful people out here on the YouTube audience because I need to nip to the toilet. You see, this is what we used... You see, when we were just on the radio, we could just relax on the breaks and, we could fart, we could scratch our hairy bits and... Johnny Whistles would get naked from time to time and nobody would know. We would do the show naked and things. Nobody knew any wiser, right? We would have a laugh off there. But now we're live all the time. Big Brother's watching. We've got about 200 people watching on the YouTube stream right now. So, guys, I leave these brilliant people in your hands, okay? And I know I can leave all of you people with Scotty and with Johnny, and everything will be quite cool. Absolutely very, very cool, right? I'll be right back. Guys, take it away.
All right. Yeah, so I mean the whole space station thing, the space hotel. I mean, I think it's a pretty cool idea. I wonder who's going to be contracted to take the people up there. Probably Elon Musk or maybe Virgin Galactic. Maybe Virgin Galactic because they seem to be focused more on the space tourism thing, right? Yeah, so maybe they'll be contracted to do it, and like I said, I mean they're just utilizing an old design that Werner von Braun designed. That's what's crazy is they didn't have to come up with this whole new idea of the space hotel or anything. All they had to do was just dig up his design from the 50s and go, yeah, let's do it. Let's go ahead and build this thing.
Have a go. Yeah, I mean, as I said, it will be fantastic. But what I would like to see, and we probably will get to see it, is when it's being built, these robots that are out there building it, that is going to be something else.
Yeah, that's going to be amazing. And another thing that's going to be crazy is what is this thing going to look like from the surface? Like how big it's got to be a lot bigger than the International Space Station. So I'm sure people will be able to see it with the naked eye as it's flying over. You're going to see this giant giant pinwheel, you know, look like a
no,
giant
I mean,
bicycle wheel
when
flying
you
over.
watch the International Space Station going across, I mean, it's not very slow. You know what I mean? It goes across the sky quite fast, this thing. And as you say, it's going to be an amazing sight. It's going to be enormous in the sky, and that'll be an amazing sight, Scott.
Yeah. What do you think, Kev? What do you think this thing is going to look like from the naked eye when you're at ground level
That'd
as
be
it goes by?
That'd be pretty cool,
Yeah.
wouldn't it? That's I never thought of that, man.
No, yeah, because you know it's going to be much, much larger than the
Okay,
ISS.
I just need to make a quick thing before we go back on air. Like, during the daytime stream, something became apparent to me that a couple of people that really should never have been banned got banned from the chat. Now, I'm not blaming anyone. I'm not having a go at anyone. Any of the mods out there. I've already spoke to one of my mods about it. We couldn't figure it out. But there's only really one kind of rule here. Anything goes, but if anyone comes in and abuses any of the hosts, like personal attacks, or they abuse any of the guests' personal attacks, or they're just like really being disruptive to any of the other chatters who are not really deserving of it, then we've got an issue. But aside from that, folks, I don't care if you disagree with me. You're free to say what you want. But just to the mods out there, just, you know, really try and... We're living in a time where it's harder and harder to exercise free speech. And one of the good things about the chat that a lot of people like is that it is somewhere where they can talk freely. So again, without criticizing anyone, it's not a complaint. Just really, just don't be banning people just willy-nilly. That's all I say to the mods out there. And I know yous don't. It was only 2. It might have been a mistake. It might have happened after the stream. But that's the only thing I wanted to say. I forgot to say it during the last break, but we're about to go live again, so we'll bring back the network. Here we go, folks. There we go. We're back. We're live. One more segment to go with yours truly right here on the Kev Baker Show on Truth Frequency Radio, www.tfrlive.com, where silence is consent. And there's going to be no silence when I'm joined by these 2 characters on my right-hand side here. First up, we've got Scotty Lopez, the Storm Chaser, and Johnny Whistles, the Storm Creator. There we go. Good stuff, boys. So I don't know where we want to go in this last segment of the show, but for everyone out there, Scott and Johnny brought up something interesting at the break. This space hotel, it's going to look weird, right? When you see that flying over your head, you know, when it's in its orbit or however they go about it. That's going to be weird, guys. It truly is.
It's going to be enormous, Kev. That's the thing. You see the size of the ISS when that's passing, and this thing is going to be, I don't know how much bigger it is, but it's going to be massive. So that going across the sky is going to be fantastic.
Yeah, like I said, it's probably going to look like a bicycle wheel flying over at a high rate of speed, you know. I mean, it's going to be wild to see that, you know. And like Johnny said, it's going to be amazing to see this thing as it's being constructed, right? Seeing all these unmanned sort of space vehicles and rovers or whatever docking and connecting parts and all of that stuff. It's going to be wild. It's literally going to look like something out of a sci-fi film, man, whenever you see them like in the middle of constructing some kind of a space station or something. It's going to be pretty cool. And like I said, Kev, who do you think is going to be the one taking people up there? Do you think it's going to be Musk? Do you think it's going to be Virgin Galactic? Or
I think just because of the cost, I think it'll be Musk. I think so. But then again, when you look at Virgin Galactic, they've got the cooler kind of craft, right? I mean, it just looks like a private jet or something, you know? So if they can find a way of getting that to dock, which might be a problem, but they might be able to adapt it. I mean, I would rather go on Virgin Galactic, right? Because it looks cooler. But then again, you know how I'm a Musk fanboy, and he'll probably give me a free seat anyway, right? So if it comes down to it, I'm going with Musk, you know? Musk's the man. People will be triggered in the chat room right now. They'll be like, see that Kev Baker, the way he likes that Elon Musk. Oh, I can't stand it. Can't stand it. I get really impatient with the way he talks about Elon Musk. It's okay. I could just play it safe and go for the whole consensus reality, because I know the consensus is that Elon Musk, he's got money, He works for the government sometimes. Must be a bad guy, right? I don't go down that road. I think Musk's cool. You guys were talking about building bricks out of moon dust earlier, right? That's something straight out of Musk's playbook. Because you look at the Boring Company and all of the dirt that comes back through the machine after it's been ground out from the tunnel, what that does is it actually churns out low-cost bricks at the other end. And if you're a charity, if you're building something for maybe cheap housing, he gives those bricks away at something like 1 cent a brick. All created out of dirt, all done by the same machine that does the boring. So, there's no waste. Everything is put to use. There's no piles of dirt lying around, nothing like that. Everything is put to use. So, yeah, you shouldn't have started me about Musk, Scott. Come on, man.
Well, maybe it will be a collaboration between Virgin Atlantic and Musk, because as Scott pointed out, Virgin are more the travel side of things. You know what I mean? They don't want to land in the moon. They want to just take you up there, and that would be perfect. As you say, if they could dock with this thing, but Musk is actually, I would actually have him as making this thing in space or being involved in it somehow.
The Black Knight, Brett Munson, used to be one of my favourite pieces of woo, the Black Knight. The Black Knight satellite, until I had on Duncan Lunan. Who's Duncan Lunan, I hear people saying? Well, Duncan Lunan was the guy that decoded the message from what he thought was the Black Knight satellite. But in reality, you see, even the most well-known UFO researchers out there, they only tell half the story. And that's why Duncan Lunan, fellow Scotsman, was keen to come on the Kev Baker show, because I told him, hey, I'll let you tell the full story. He says, but Kev, you're not going to like it. I'm thinking, why am I not going to like it? And he thought I wouldn't like it because he came to realise after years more study on the Black Knight that he thought he was taking information from. And for anyone who hasn't heard of the Black Knight satellite, this is something that they found in polar orbit. And it looks like, and it was rumoured to be some kind of alien artifact. It looks like Knight Rider's car. You can go and see pictures of something online. But the guy who decoded the message about Epsilus or was it Epsilus Buton or something like that? The mad kind of planet. Yeah.
Butus.
You see, this is the thing, right? He says that message didn't come from a satellite that's in polar orbit around our planet. Whether it's been there 13,000 years or 23,000 years, like some of the stories say, he doesn't know. But what was interesting was he thinks the signal came from a comet. Now, I find that interesting because in recent times we've had that asteroid called Oumuamua, the messenger, and there was people out there. We had Avi Loeb from Harvard or MIT who said this is more like an alien probe than your typical comet or asteroid. And we had even Stephen Hawking and people like that saying, before Stephen passed, obviously, that, he's saying you need to investigate this thing because this could be some kind of alien structure. So the Black Knight satellite story is only half complete if you look at the good woo with the pictures going around the planet and things. But for me, guys, as opposed to me not liking the full story, I think the full story is even more compelling. A message that maybe came from a comet.
Yeah, I was about to say, that just kind of adds a little more woo to it, right? Because now we're talking about a message that may have originated from somewhere else. Now, where did it originate from, And like you said, we have Oumuamua. Maybe it came from Oumuamua. Maybe what he thought, this message that he thought was coming from the Black Knight satellite, maybe was originating from Oumuamua.
Scott, Scott, you know how I've got one of these weird photographic memories for woo, right? You can see I've brought nothing up on my screen, right? I'm sharing screens with the boys here. They can see I've not looked at anything since I've started telling the story. I'm going from memory here. I remember the name of the comet, dude. VG 2012. So if people want to actually check out that comet, VG 2012. Now, if I've got it wrong, I've just lined myself up for some absolute idiocy, right? People are going to ridicule me. But VG 2012, that's where Duncan Lunan thinks that strange message was coming from. And I'll dig up the strange message right now just so we can read that out for people. Maybe people haven't heard of the Black Knight satellite before. We get a load of new listeners in here. I think it's been on Ancient Aliens. And like I said, I think NASA discovered it. Oh, there goes half the audience. Oh, well, it can't be true then if NASA discovered it. But there was people, you know, like Duncan Lunan, independent astronomers that were looking at this kind of thing as well. Turns out, not as cool woo as we thought, but even better woo when you finish the full story. So it's kind of crazy.
And it doesn't completely kill the Black Knight satellite thing because there is still something in polar orbit.
Yeah,
right?
exactly, Scott. Yeah.
I mean, so it's not like the Black Knight satellite doesn't exist. It's just the signal or whatever that was supposedly coming from it may have originated from somewhere else.
Do you remember remember the Pepsi advert, though, guys?
Sorry, Kev. Has a Muamua ever been in a polar orbit?
No, dude, that was our first ever interstellar visitor. It came in, it was the first time we'd ever had an asteroid that basically came in from another. It was our first, wasn't that what they called it, Scott? The first interstellar visitor, because it came in at such an angle and then went out and started speeding up and stuff like that.
It originated from somewhere else in the galaxy.
Yeah.
You know, from as opposed to within our own solar system. It came in from interstellar space. And so that's what was so fascinating about it, is because, you know, you don't get things like
obviously I don't have you guys factored into the picture here. We've got Joe Joseph in there, which is rather unfortunate, but we can get rid of him in a moment. Poor Joe. Even Anne says I pick on Joe far too much, right? I don't. He's deserving of it, right? But I'll bring you guys, I'll put you in a minute. But it says the Black Knight satellite conspiracy theory claims that there is a spacecraft in near polar orbit of the Earth that is of extraterrestrial origin, and that NASA is engaged in a cover-up, imagine, regarding its existence and origin. The conspiracy theory combines several unrelated stories into one narrative, and I must admit that that's basically what Duncan Lunan told me as well, guys. There was a lot of different kind of stories woven together, and it's interesting, but the truth of the matter is that, you know, it's not quite the way that it's told by most mainstream or most of your recognizable ufologists. Most of the people that you would see on Ancient Alien, stuff like that, they'll tell you only part of the story and then they'll stop because they want you to concentrate on one part of it, but it's not the full story, right? So I don't know, man, it's a bit weird.
I find the Black Knight satellite thing, you know, at least the way that the story is told and all of that stuff and sort of everything around it, I find the Black Knight satellite to be very similar to the way Black Goo is portrayed.
Yeah,
you know,
but
there's something to it, but you know, maybe the whole conspiracy surrounding it is not all what it's cracked up to be. You know what I mean? And it doesn't discount anything, right? I mean, like I said, there still is something in polar orbit.
And Scott, somebody's asking, what's polar orbit? Literally, it just goes round north to south pole, back to north to south, and all the while the Earth is spinning. But it still maintains that kind of north-south.
Yeah.
And the thing was, we've got stuff that can do that now, but when they discovered it, we never had anything in polar orbit, you know?
Yeah, I was about to say, polar orbit is a very hard orbit to put something in. That's why it took so long.
Because you get polar orbit or you get geosynchronous, and that's where, you know, it kind of goes round with the planet. There you go. Not that I worked on satellites in the army or anything, because if I tell you too much about that, I may have to kill you all. And not that I got taught about HARP back in the day. Before I knew it was HARP, obviously, imagine my surprise when I get out the army and I'm listening to Alex Jones and Nick Begich is on there and he's talking about this super duper weapon called HARP. And I'm thinking, how come this rings a bell? Heating up bits of the atmosphere to use it as an antenna? Oh, I might have used that. People don't believe it, Scott, but literally that's what we were bouncing our signals off. It's just comms. Yeah. One aspect of it is comms. but with Harp, there's so many other things going on as well, but I'd have to kill everyone if I told them, so, you know, I don't get into that, Scott. It's my secret stuff, and when people hear I've been in the army, it already raises flags. They think I'm a psyop and things. It's okay. It's okay.
Okay. It's okay. Yeah. It's fine. But no. Like I said, I think the Black Knight satellite and the Black Goo thing is kind of similar in sort of the stories and conspiracy that have been woven around both of them. But it doesn't discount them, right?
No.
You know, I definitely think that there's something to the Black Goo thing, and I definitely think that there's something to the Black Knight thing. It's just not all, you know, kind of what the sort of story and conspiracy that we've been told. You know, it's probably something different, but yeah.
This is why I love doing this show, because I love leaving people with something new to go and research for themselves. And I can see a few people in there hadn't even heard of the polar orbit before. That's not a criticism by me. This fulfills this show's role. We give you things, we give you information, and you take it and you go and look into it and you learn stuff. And that's what it's all about, folks. Whether it gets us any closer to the truth or not, I don't know. But it's interesting, right? And there's something that somebody learned today. I like that. That's job done for me today, guys. Totally. I can sit back now, relax, chill out. But I've got one more story I want to get to. And this ties in with a lot of stuff that we've covered in recent times now. Wait a minute, where the heck did I put it now? Here it is. Let me pull it over here. Now, obviously, I can't get it onto the screen with you guys, but I'll pull it up. A 6-headed burial of Highland clan era is probed by archaeologists. Now look at this, Johnny. They've got a set of teeth like me and you, brother. Look, see?
Yeah.
This
Well,
I don't know. I'm probably about the same as the one on the left-hand side. I don't know, but I keep telling people in Scotland we don't have good DNA at all. This proves it, right? But it says here archaeologists are working to unravel the mysteries of a 6-headed burial, which may be linked to one of the most brutal episodes in Highland clan warfare. The remains of 2 men in their 40s were found on top of each other, in a single coffin under Tarbet Old Parish Church in Port Mahomet, Easter Ross. Now, this is right up near where my mum stays, and we can see the picture here, right? So it says here, one man died from horrific sword injuries that removed the bottom half of his face, with a second cut found above his left eye. Now, the second had a blade cut above his left eye, with the wound inflicted around the time of death. Unusually, the skulls of 4 others have been placed around the bodies in what has been described as a special burial. Now, I've actually been to this location one of the times I was home a couple of years ago. Very, very ancient chapel. And this is the place where I took a photograph of a skeleton that when myself, my brother, my mum looked at it, we all looked at each other and said, hang on a minute, that skeleton's huge. As in, unnaturally long. Joe Joseph, if you're listening, I'm going there, dude. This was a giant, especially when you consider the average height of people in Scotland is like me and Johnny Whistles. Not too tall, right? So they've got this skeleton in a glass case. You look down onto it from above, and it's big. It's really big. But we're not talking about that here because they've found something else now. It says the skeletal remains are thought to date from the 15th century, when Clan Ross and Clan Mackay fought out a terrifying rivalry in the area that arguably peaked with the Battle of Tarbat in the 1480s. Then, Clan Ross cornered a raiding party of Clan Mackay, with many killed in the encounter. Survivors of the attack sought sanctuary in the church, but the Rosses set fire to it, killing all those hiding inside. Now, Dr. Cecil Spall, or Cecily Spall, is there such a name as Cecily? There is now. Mandela, director of York-based Fieldwork Archaeological Services, has worked at the Port Mahomet site for over a number of years. And she said the men and the skulls were buried in the most prominent part of the church, in the mouth of the crypt, directly under the nave. It's the second time I've come across a story about a church and a nave today. The other one was about the fact that in the Norwich Cathedral, they've installed a helter-skelter in the chapel. I'm not making this up, folks. They've installed a helter-skelter in the church to attract more children. Terrifying, I know, but it's a true story. I'll bring it up in a second. I know it sounds unbelievable. I'll get there, Scott. I'll get there. It says, Dr. Small said, at the time, burials were incredibly orthodox. So this deviates massively from what you would expect to find. And the Ross and Mackay feud was a horrible conflict. What we are alluding to is that if these men were not directly linked to the documented events, they were linked to this period. What we want to understand is the experience of these men. This warrior class could go out and fight for a wage. Some of them ended up in Scandinavia as mercenaries, for example. Across the Highlands, these finds can make a real contribution to the understanding of these men and how they lived. And we think we understand Scottish identity, but here we have facts on the ground which help us furnish a more realistic understanding of this time. It goes on and on down there, but it says more than 170 skeletons, including those of 40 children, have been found under the church, which the site spanning 5 key periods. Now, when I was up there, it was obvious that the archaeological kind of work still had a lot to be done. It was still ongoing. So I think this story is going to be updated more and more as time goes on. It says it was first occupied in the 6th to 7th centuries when the land was used as a Pictish farmstead. We're back to these Picts again. It then became an important Pictish monastery, which was destroyed around 800 AD by a Viking raid, and the monastery was replaced and by the 12th century became a parish church, with the final period spanning to the 15th and 17th centuries. So there's the old chapel there, and there's a picture of what they've now uncovered. And like I say, guys, I don't know if you remember at the time, I think we looked at it on a Freaky Friday back before we were streaming and things, but the pictures of the skeleton I had, do you remember it, Johnny? It was absolutely massive, dude. Massive. Yeah. It was one of the times I went home, yeah. So that's interesting, and this is something I'm going to keep on top of. But I mentioned there this story about a helter-skelter in a chapel. Kev, you obviously must be lying, right? Why would they put a helter-skelter in a chapel? You know me, folks. I don't lie. I can back it all up. And the Metro is not a satire newspaper, okay? It says here, helter-skelter installed in cathedral to give people a better view of the roof. Look at this. This is what we're talking about here. You couldn't make... Look at Johnny Whistle. You can't see Johnny Whistle's face. Look, you can now, though. And what I'll do is I'll just take a picture of it and I'll put it on this screen here so we can see the guys as well, okay? 2 secs. I'll try and get that factored in here. No, it's not letting me put that picture in. Hang on. Try another one. Let's see.
Is this sponsored by Charles Manson?
Helter Skelter, Johnny, you and me think so alike, dude, right? Because that's the first thing I thought when I seen the term Helter Skelter today. It really is. So if I bring this in here, there we have it, folks. There's the Helter Skelter in the chapel. I'll just put it in between me and Scott there. And of course, they say it's to make the Church of England more attractive to draw in more people. And I know the only kind of people you attract with fairground rides are children. So I don't really know what the heck's going on here. But I also came to find out that some Church of England cathedrals are putting in crazy golf behind the altar as well.
I saw that. I saw that they did a story here on that, and they were like installing like a putt mini golf course in the churches over there, and I was like, And they're like, we need it so we can attract more kids, and I'm like, oh god,
weird.
Really?
I know.
What about a swimming pool behind the altar? A swimming pool.
Why,
you know what I mean?
exactly, Johnny. Why not have trapeze artists or a tightrope and a circus act?
Wild,
You know, I don't know.
I mean, how bad has it got, really? Do you know what I mean? These things in churches, come on. Church is boring, okay? Chapels are boring. The places are absolutely horrible. especially chapels, because
But they're
always
meant to be,
freezing cold.
dude. They're meant to be. They're not meant to be like the place you take children for like an afternoon of activity. Not in the way that we think, anyway, right?
No, no,
I don't know.
was-
It's
Kev,
weird.
I was actually forced, and I mean forced, because if I didn't go to chapel, my father would have absolutely killed me. So I had to go. But
This might, Kev, this might factor into the whole thing we were talking about earlier with people being impatient and
Good.
not being able to sit through church, right? So they're having to find like different ways of basically keeping people engaged at some level, right? So they're starting to like put these things in like mini golf courses and helter skelters and all kinds of weird stuff to try and get people to focus on going. Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
Somebody
next?
in the chat room said churches are dying out in the UK. I'm going to be controversial. I like to trigger people, right? I think churches should be done away with because for me, it's a bit of a con, right? You give all that money in there. Do you really think giving money, do you really think the big man, the coder, the programmer, the creator, do you really think he cares about how much money you donate to the church to line the pockets of these criminals at the top of it and sending money to that place over in Rome, Vatican, with their big walls and their guys defending it in pajamas while the dudes with purple frocks inside are doing the most heinous crimes in the world? I find the whole church thing ridiculous. And if that offends you, I'm sorry, but I'm being honest. Faith.
Okay, you look at the American ones.
But faith is
look
something.
At the American ones, and they don't get charged tax.
But you
and
don't.
All these people that are in charge of all these big churches, they've all got, I don't know how many cars. They've got homes.
Exactly.
The homeless people
It's a scam.
would absolutely love to have, but they'll never get.
It's a scam.
It's a total scam.
But we're almost out of time, right? And my point is, you don't have to go to church to get to heaven, right? If that's what you think, okay, it's about you. It's about what you believe, what you do in your life, your own personal belief system. It's not to be seen to be going to church with all the rest of the hypocrites that go there for an hour a week and then go home and don't practice what they're preaching. Do it yourself, folks. This is a church. You're the church. And we're out of time. We are out of here. Until next time, goodbye, God bless, and join me tomorrow for Brendan Drackler, my little NASA guy, the astrophysicist. We'll be back tomorrow. Later, y'all.
Didn't he touch that dial?
You see, you got it in there, but you see, we ran out of time towards the end. This has been the most dysfunctional stream ever, but I'm sure probably people love it. I like the dysfunction. 205 people tuned in, can't argue with that. Thousands on the TFR. I've had a blast, guys, an absolute blast. I hope you have too. See what the chat room was saying now. I've probably triggered people. People don't like it when I'm honest. They would rather me tell them what they want to hear. But you know me, guys. Johnny, I don't think you need to go to church to be a good person.
Kev, you got it right at the end, and it's what I've always said. You are your own church. You don't have to go to church to pray. You can do it in your kitchen, toilet, living room, bedroom, on the street, in a corner, in a
Absolutely.
coffee shop. It makes no difference.
And even if you
So
don't pray,
that's
Johnny, I think if you just go about life trying to be right with people, no matter what,
Exactly.
no matter
Yeah.
what they believe, no matter what the colour of their skin are, just treat people the way you want to be treated. Don't worry about it too much, and everything else will take care of itself. If you just try to be good, just be nice. Don't go hating on people. And I know I get triggered. I hate on some groups of people out there, but just be yourself. Treat others the way you want to be treated. And I think, I think that'll stand you in better stead than going there and bowing and scraping and eating things that symbolize the body of Christ and drinking the blood of Christ. I mean, that's barbaric and man. What the hell do you want to be What do you want to be taking part in that for anyway? You're stood there listening to a dude in a dress talking to you about how holier than thou he is, and then you start to find out about some of the crimes these characters are up to. Like Johnny said, the church is anywhere you want. You're the church. Do your thing. Crack on. Just be good. Love one another. Smoke a doober. Have a drink. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, honestly. That's my take on things. If you want to follow the book word by word, that's cool. Have at it. I support you. I love you all. If you want to follow the Quran, I love you just as equally. I don't care. Just treat people right, and I think you're all good to go, guys. You get that stamp in the book when you get to the pearly gates. On you go through, Baker. You're in. All right? Just my thoughts.
I'm the same, mate. I'm the same.
Yes.
It's the easiest way to deal with.
I think so. So any last topics before we depart, boys, before we let these people go back to their day? The church was designed as government, or by government, as government, something to control people. In a way, I really do believe that, yeah. I think, you know, hard line like religion as opposed to faith. I think so. You know, do it yourself.
Yeah. Religious institutions were originally set up by government because there was no difference between the two, right? I mean, the church ran everything. Remember, you know, it was all church doctrine that dictated what countries did, right? And what everyone. I mean, look at all the power that the Roman Catholic Church had.
Yeah.
Over the years, you know,
way too much power. Way too much. Scott.
It was them that dictated what a lot of different countries did. You know, if that country was part of the Roman Catholic Empire, basically. So yeah, I mean, it
no,
was set
hang
up.
on now, hang on. You said to pray to yourself. No, I said pray yourself. You pray to yourself if you want. But you pray to yourself. It's going out there. If it, you know, you're praying. It doesn't matter where you are. I don't think it shouldn't matter. And to be honest with you, if this almighty creator judges you for praying in the wrong place, I don't know if I want to hang out there for eternity anyway. You know, a skewed up set of rules, man. When you see some of the things that's allowed to go in this world and then you get judged for maybe praying in the wrong place, I don't know. That is a crazy thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's really, you know what I mean? It's some of the things like God fearing. I mean, where did that come from? Why should we fear God if he's such a great thing? Do you know what I mean? This God fearing person. I mean, I don't get that.
I know what you mean. That term's a bit loaded, I suppose, a bit off. I get it. You shouldn't fear anything, to be honest with you. I don't spend too much time thinking about it. I just try and do my day-to-day thing. Try and be as right as I can. And I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. So, and like you were saying about the Roman... Johnny Whistles. Like you were saying about the Roman Empire, Scott, you know. For me, when it comes to the whole Vatican and things like that, they took off the centurion garb and they shoved on frocks. And they set out a load of books and a set of rules and to try and maintain that control and to keep the money flowing and to keep the coffers filled in Rome.
And you know, let's not just single out the Roman Catholic Church because they're just one of them. Right? I mean, this has been done throughout history, right? Even before the Christian religion, right? I mean, look, Egypt, they used religion to establish control over their population, whatever their religion. You had to follow the rules and the doctrines of their theology or whatever, you know. So it just seems like cultures throughout the world, you know, utilize religion as a way of control. You know, that's the way the elite control their people. You know, that's just what happens, you know. And it has taken many different shapes and forms over thousands of years, but that's what basically established, you know, mainstream religion is it's a form of control because, you make people fear. You control people's behavior by telling them, look, if you don't do this or do that, or if you do this or you do that, then you're going to go to a place that's really bad. You're going to go to a fiery pit, or you're going to be punished in the afterlife. And it's just a way of controlling people's behavior. Now, I mean, we have to have some kind of morals and basic basic rules on how to treat one another, right? I mean, that's just but they can use it as an excuse to control people's behavior beyond that, right? And to control, just to keep the population under control. And that's just what they've done throughout history. So yeah, you're right. I mean, you guys are totally correct. You don't have to go to a specific building every Sunday and to end up going to heaven or whatever, right? You can find your connection with God anywhere, like Johnny said, in your kitchen, in your bedroom at night, whatever. Walking down the street, you can talk to God anywhere. He doesn't care where you do it at. It's up to you. It's up to you to find that connection. It's up to you to make that connection with God. You don't have to have someone else do it for you, or listen to some guy, telling you how to do it. Just
I'm with you, dude. With you all the way. All the way. We've got more people tuning in from Australia. Mammoth Hunter. I think I'd be as well moving to Australia. More people know me in Australia, Whistles, than know me in Scotland. I think I'll head down under, dude.
Kev, I like Australia, but it's got too many creepy insects and they kill
big
you.
time, big time. Do you know what I like about Australia as well, though? Thinking about this, people think, Kev, what the hell do you think about in your spare time, right? But because talking about Australia, the swearing stuff and that in the stream today, and I think it was yesterday actually I thought about this. I think Australia's got it right. Now, let me explain, right? You find most of the settlements, most of the big built-up kind of metropolitan areas, towns, cities, they're all around the coast, right? And the majority of Australia is left as it always has been. The outback, right? It's barren, it's rugged, and the native peoples still live on that land. If only we had followed that plan, eh? If only we had followed that template everywhere, we could have maybe lived a bit more harmoniously. Let me explain why, right? Look what happens to the natives in most countries that the British and the Spanish and all these other empires conquered at once upon a time, right? We went in there and we eradicated them, we killed them, we were absolutely heinous. Something we shouldn't be guilty about today because it was hundreds of years ago. But if we had just gone to the coastal areas where we could have fished to sustain ourselves, where we could have built up population centres and left that land, the majority of the land inshore, away from the coasts for the indigenous native peoples, and let them continue, since it is their land, wherever we're talking about. I don't know. I just think we maybe could have got on, and maybe things could have gone a bit more harmoniously than the way we see it today. But that's just my thoughts on things, and I'm Kev Baker, and I think different. Who knows? Maybe it's a thing, maybe it's not. But when it comes to Australia, I don't know. I kind of like the way that the majority of Australia, it's just nothing. It's just the way it always has been. It's untouched. Yeah, there's roads and things like that. But, does that make any sense at all, guys?
Kev, though, but I have to point out, the reason a lot of Australia is untouched is because it's just straight up.
No, I get that. I get that, dude. I get that. I get that. I totally get that, dude. Totally. You look at it, man. You wouldn't want to be stuck out in the outback for out at Ayers Rock or without a kind of trip back to somewhere to get water. I get it. Get that. But in general, I don't know. It would have given people coming to a new area, somewhere to go without totally having to eradicate and get rid of the people that were already there, things like that. I don't know. I just try and find ways for everyone to go along to get along, you know?
And the Aborigines were not treated very well. Also, I mean,
They still aren't, dude.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, they had their own issues with that, and you're right though. I mean, I think throughout history though, if you look at the human species throughout history, we've naturally done that. We naturally congregate and establish cities and civilization along coastlines and along areas of, well, where we can get water. Coastlines and rivers are where humans tend to settle. So yeah, I mean, but with technology nowadays, I mean, we can reroute water sources into areas where water didn't exist before, and we can push farther into areas that were once uninhabitable. We can now go there. So yeah, I mean, the thing with indigenous populations and people coming in and eradicating them and stuff, I'm torn on that. It's an issue that I'm very torn on it, because it's horrible. It's really bad for the indigenous population. But if you look at things in the grander scheme of things, as far as the history of humanity, there's always been segments of humanity that have come into other areas and conquered other humans. You know what I mean? And we tend to selectively pick certain episodes and become outraged about it, right? I mean, if you look at say the time of the Egyptians and like the Assyrians and the Babylonians, you had those cultures going into areas and completely decimating and wiping out people that were indigenous to whatever areas they were trying to conquer, right? But you don't see people nowadays really upset about that. You know what I mean? It's just taught in history that yes, this group went in, they wiped out these people, and it became part of this empire. It became part of this culture. And so when you hear like Europeans doing it to like the native populations of North America or whatever.
Sorry, reading the chat room. Sorry, Scott. You finish and I'll get to it.
No, I'm saying, and then it's seen as something horrific and bad, which it is. It is. I'm not saying it's not, but you see people saying, okay, well, this land was stolen from the Native Americans or stolen from the natives. And I always go, no, it was conquered. Right? And that's just something that us humans do. You have segments of humanity that go and conquer other areas. And yeah, I mean, it's just something that happens. That's all I'm saying is that it's something that happens, and there's no way we can go back and reverse that.
Yeah.
Right.
Britain's been doing that for centuries, Scott.
Yes, it's not just the Native Americans.
Yeah.
it's been any area where any indigenous population lived, and a segment of humanity that was technologically superior. That's usually the case, right? A segment of humanity that has higher technology, they have a better fighting force, a better army, um, are able to go in and conquer an area. I mean, like I said, you've seen it throughout history. Alexander the Great. Look at how many areas Alexander the Great conquered. And he's seen as a great person in history, right? He conquered the known world at the time. But this is just something that happens, right? It's human nature. It's what our species does. And so,
Hey, Scott, I'm not sitting here laughing at what you're saying. I'm laughing because Mammoth Hunter says she's away to take her fake children to a fake school right now, because obviously we have this very small portion of people that think that Australia doesn't exist.
Yeah.
oh my God.
Yeah.
And Mammoth didn't even know this was the thing. Mammoth's Australian, and probably she says, I didn't even know this till you told me that, Kevin. I'm thinking, I bet you when she heard me saying that, or he, I think it's a she, but I bet she thought, what's that Kev Baker talking about? What do you mean people said Australia doesn't exist? Right into Google it. Oh my God, there's people that think Australia doesn't actually exist. It's a thing. It's like my stream today. How the hell did the world get this crazy? I know. It's mad.
Well, you remember, Kev, you informed me the other day that there are certain people that believe that the hurricane was fake.
Oh,
Scott,
it's got worse. It's got worse. It's got worse, guys. I thought there was only one. No. There's 2 or 3 of them, because Unirock, he had covered it last night. We had that ginger hair dude that I'd pointed out before, and there's 2 or 3 others out there that claim the storm isn't a storm. Makes you want to slap your head with a brick or something, or even better, slap them with a brick. I don't know.
Wow.
So before we go, right, because I think everyone in the chat room knows if I stay here any longer, I could stay here all night gabbing, right? But I need to let these boys go. Johnny needs his bed. Scotty Lopez needs fed. If you don't feed Scotty once every 2 hours, he gets angry, man. He starts eating like the microphone thing and stuff like that, See, there he goes. But I've had a blast today. I think that's like 4 hours of streaming. You've had an overdose of Kev today. I really do apologise if it's been too much KBS for anyone, but I didn't make you come here. I didn't make you click the stream. I didn't tie you up and force you all to stay. And if you can take more of it, I'll be back tomorrow around about 5 p.m. in the UK, maybe 6, I don't know. And then tomorrow night, get ready to be triggered, folks. Not probably the people in this chat room, but I'm going to be joined by my good friend Brendan Drackler. And Brendan is somebody that studies astrophysics at the Rochester Institute of Technology. He's working on building models of what happens when 2 black holes collide. But he's a bit like me. He's a bit boisterous. He likes to kind of, throw things out there that he knows is going to get a reaction. And of course, because he knows people at NASA and stuff like that, he puts his little NASA badge in the background where everyone can see it. We have a laugh, but obviously there's some people can't take a laugh that way. And that's what we'll be talking about tomorrow on the show. Coming up on the 9th of September. Yeah, it's the 9th of September. We've got a new guest coming on to the show. It's going to be author Debbie Elliott. And she's going to be coming on to talk about her book, Monkey Mind, Robot Body. We're going to be geeking out for 2 hours, talking about robotics, how it ties in with theology, divinity, all this kind of stuff. A totally new slant on everything. But it's always good to get different people's takes on different topics. We'll probably be getting into sex robots, stuff like all that as well. So that's on the 9th. And then on the on that day in September, the famous one. I don't want to say that date. It's 11/9 in the UK because we do our dates back to front. We're going to have a very special broadcast that day. try and bring in somebody new every year for that. And it's going to be Charlie Robinson. Almost forgot there who I've got coming on. Charlie Robinson, the author of The Octopus of Global Control. He'll be on that day. Scott's sister's birthday that day. So we've got to remember to give her many, many, many happy returns. Give her a big shout out. It's not a commiseration. It's not going to be a solemn affair. Well, definitely in Scott's house, they'll be trying to celebrate a birthday. My cousin Jamie, his birthday's on that day in September as well. So yeah, we'll be talking about all of that.
My ex-wife.
Oh, the ex-wife. Dang, dude. Dang. Oh.
I will also be trying to join Kev that day, depending on how the festivities go around here.
Well, somebody's mentioned Vajankle in the chat room. What if I was to tell people out there that I am 1 degree of separation away from the dude that created the Vajankle, and Scott knows I'm not lying. Right, I showed Scott the message, okay? So, listen, maybe sometime over on Periscope, because that stream is not going to be YouTube friendly, we'll talk to the originator, the generator of the thing that's given us so much laughter over the years, Scott, Johnny. We'll try and get him onto the show. So, yeah. And, D Nice, his birthday is on September the 20th. And before I go, Crypto Callus says, I really need someone's help in capital letters. So it must be important if it's in capital letters. We're going to find out what help Crypto needs before we go, and then we'll get out of here, guys, right? So, Crypto, come on, tell us. What help do you need, man? Woman? Non-binary?
Stuck up a tree.
I don't know what help this character needs, but we're going to help him, because that's what we do here.
It's got to be a cat, Kev. It's got to be a cat.
Think so?
Up a tree somewhere.
Do you think so?
Mm-hmm.
Hope so.
Yeah, can see it.
We can help with that.
Mm-hmm.
Great show, guys. Have a great night. That's from Queen Goddess. You have a great day too, Queen Goddess. It's great seeing you here. Crypto's been very cryptic. He's not telling us. Oh, right. Okay, you're in a mental hospital because of MK Ultra. What do you say to that? I don't know. What country are you in, dude? I don't know. I wish I could help with something like that. I don't think I can, though. We could maybe,
If you're in Scotland, we'll break you out.
Aye, I could get my ninja suit on and, we could, head out there and do something.
We're jetpacks, Kev.
What are they doing letting you online if you're in a mental hospital? I detect a little whiff of something not right going on here.
Yeah, I think so, Kev.
I don't think they allow you online activity, do you? If you're maybe under that kind of stuff. I don't know. I've never been in a mental hospital. I'm not saying I won't ever end up there, but I might do, Crypto, come on, fill us in, man. I'm intrigued now. Scotland? Whereabouts in Scotland? Well, why do I think we're getting our leg pulled here, boys? Why do I think that? Let's see what hospital in Scotland it is.
Right.
Let's see. See if we can...
Levendale, Kev.
4G? What? I've got no idea. No idea. No, that's not going to come up there. Exactly, Polynation. I don't think they would allow my radio show into a mental hospital, to be honest with you. I'm in Mackinnon House, Spring Hill. Know where that is, Johnny? I have no idea.
I know where Spring Hill is, but I don't know where that place is, Kev.
I'll have a look. I'll Google it quickly before we go. Me and Johnny will launch a covert mission. Look at Scotty Lopez. He's thinking, what's going on here? I've never seen this happening on a stream. Either have I, dude, but we roll different here.
Only on the KBS live stream.
Mackinnon House. You're not in Cape Town, so I don't know. I can't find this place. I don't know. Bizarre. And if you are in one of... Listen, if you are in a place like that, You see me laughing and joking and things. You know that's how I roll, right? I'm not laughing at you. Let's see, though. I'm quite intrigued here. It's Ashtat command stuff. I don't know, dude. I don't think I'm the dude to be helping you there. I've no idea what you're talking about. I'm sorry, and that's no criticism, no offense, but I don't know. Nova Scotia, I've been there. Ashtar command? Okay then. No problem. I don't know. Maybe you should ask the Ashtar commander. Maybe. I don't know. The KBS is therapy. Maybe. I have no... Scott, you love Scott. Ashtar command? What's going on, dude?
Ashtar command.
This sounds like something
Doesn't
that
it-
David Wilcock would sell books on or something, right? Is this where the blue chickens come into things? Oh, it's one of these channeling. Oh, no.
Do I see the Nords on the side?
Yeah, I remember all this stuff. I don't know. Anyway, folks, I've had an absolute blast today. I'll be back tomorrow. Somebody mentioned Nova Scotia. I was in Halifax, Nova Scotia for one night. No, 2 nights if you count on the way back as well. Beautiful part of Canada. I say that as if I've been all over Canada. I've been to one place, Halifax and Nova Scotia. That's it. But yeah, we are out of here, folks. Let's see now. You got to dig a lot to find experts to remove and bring evidence to... Okay. Folks, if I start reading out the chat again, we know what happened earlier on today. I'll be here for another 5 hours. I need more than a chat room to explain. Okay, but if you're in a mental facility or a psychiatric facility or some locked up facility, I don't know how on earth's name, A, you're getting online, B, how I'm meant to help you, and C, if you're in contact with the Ashtar Command, which are an off-world force, I think they might be able to help you more than me. I don't know. I'm just one guy sitting in Glasgow. Who knows? They can maybe, what do you call it? Energize? What do they call it in Star Trek? Beam me up?
Teleport.
Yeah. Away you go, man. You're gone. I don't know. Anne's about to hit me with a shoe. Send me an EA? Oh, don't drop emails in there, dude. I'll hide that. I've got your email, but never a good idea to drop your email in a live chat. Especially not your like Google account. I'm trustworthy. I'm not going to do anything apart from maybe email you. Maybe. I'm not a big believer in the whole Ashtar thing, to be honest with you. I looked at it many years ago when I was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and even then it didn't really sit right with me. Not saying it's not a thing. But D-Nice, great show, fellas. Thank you, D-Nice. And on that note, I think it's that time. See, here we go, Philip. You're dropping phone numbers, and again, I know that's probably some crazy sex line you're dropping in there. That's cool. This always happens when I say don't drop something in the chat room. People start dropping things they shouldn't drop in the chat room. So, until tomorrow, lunchtime, tea time, sorry, I'll be back then with it's not the KBS coffee break anymore. Let me introduce you to the new name of the afternoon show. Scott, you know it, don't you? It's Kev's Safe Space, where snowflakes tend to melt.
You know what might have an even better ring is Kev's unsafe space.
I like it. I like it better. I do like it better.
Yes, Kev's unsafe space where snowflakes melt.
Yes, I like that. And where snowflakes melt, that's just an add-on that people can... But Kev's unsafe space, where there's no, like, Play-Doh and crayons and things like that. I get it. Okay, we are out of here, folks. Valiant Stallion, a night-night to you. Philip, Crypto, you were born into the Ashtar Command? See, now, I'm intrigued. If you want to come back and talk about this tomorrow or something, Crypto, then please do. Keep an eye open for when the stream starts tomorrow. I don't want to keep the guys here any longer than we have to, and I don't want to annoy you people out there with the tone of my voice any longer than we have to. So what I'm going to do is just let me open up some tunes. You know how I've got the best selection of music on the internet, right? You know I've got the... Scott Lopez, did you just laugh at my music? Did you? Did you, sir?
No, I enjoy the music that Uni hooked you up with.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. I can prove gang stalking. See, now now I don't believe a word you're saying. Not that I don't believe gang stalking, but you've gone from being in the Ashtar command to being gang stalked. So I'm sorry, Crypto. I'm sorry, but my spidey senses are telling me that there could be shenanigans going on here. But that's okay, because I can have a laugh with that. I can. And maybe you've been gang stalked into thinking you're in the Ashtar command, which is equally cool. And I do believe in gang stalking. I don't believe everyone that thinks they're being gang stalked is gang stalked, but I believe there's something out there. Absolutely. So until tomorrow, before I get waylaid yet again, let me turn on the tunes. There we go. We've got some tunes. And that means, yes, that's right, folks, we are out of here. Keep it real, keep it safe, and if you're in the Ashtar command, beam me up, Scotty.
You know.